next visitors, huh? Surprise, surprise. Oh, I know this. It's starting already. All right. So we got post line real quick. Be on. Open my light boxes. 5 p.m. Oh, he don't have a cell. Take him back to the ground. I wonder. Alright, so let's see. Open another cell phone. Cell phone over there. Got something from Padilla. Collect 1.4K pet hair removers. Hello, Snowball. Why don't you just sit there and let me admire you from afar? She's back on my lap again. All right. Good kitty, kitty. have to admit, I'm actually starting to warm up to these little creatures. The way they're content to curl up next to you and quietly spend time together. It's kind of ideal. Maybe I am a cat person after all. I look straight out. Complete the party. I did that. Get the light box. Collect the wood. Why is everyone looking so stiff? Come on, let's show these people how to have a good time. The cat sanctuary is counting on us to make this party fun. Look, I missed the party. I missed the party. Kitty cabin, bedside table. That's pretty cute. I got what a man needs to bring to the bedside. The wood. Got the wood and the lumberjack. Get out of there, recycle it. Recycle. So that I can upgrade. Almost there. Yes. Did my go on a date with my RS. Use my quick link right there. Push for hits. 3 for 6. She's not very great. She's 34, 15, 9, 37, 6. Like, she's right there. She's the same size as me. She don't have an RA. Oh. Yeah, man, you're gonna put it in lockdown for 12 hours. My bad, my bad. fucking 11 o'clock. That's way too late for y'all to be running around. Wait, sleep. Y'all gotta have lock up. Eat, lock up, lock up. Y'all can't be running around 9 o'clock. Why won't this guy? Huh? Fucking retard. Damn. Let me see the fucking lie. I guess they're gonna get legal plug on. What's up? What's up? Oh, lovely. that, that guard just split on the book. Those athletes. What is that? It is 0 years. We did a year for vandalism. Jeez, What's up with this dude right here? Shit. Let's go here and just fucking loud. We got 10 to 4. Alright. There's people coming in. Spin the wheel again. These shots in this group. What's going on, dude? Set people. Look, she didn't. She still didn't do. There's no freaking footpath there because they follow the footpath. Watch, I bet you as soon as I put a footpath there, they will. They'll take it. I think my canteen over there is getting too crowded. It's got the same amount of people as this. This is like a lot more. I should have spaced it out, but I was trying something, but it didn't really work out well. But I think these guys have some video games. That's bigger than why are these guys like going to here more? Here, buddy? There we go. The stone path. Okay. You got it? You got it? I don't know if I'd trust a motherfucker to do that. Shitty. Some motherfuckers just kept eating your food too, like. How? gonna land all my shit now. She just stomped her down. Yeah. That's what it was on him. That's what better use those. Yes, you put the walker right there and use it. Okay, possibly got something there. Just, just better. How about building that walkway? Pedestrians would use the walkway. Pages, for options. Here we go. We're getting it on. Keep it on, keep it on. Still typing. 9 p.m. It's not 13 fire, 22 ready. I think like almost, not quite further half. I need like, give me a room up here. I guess I could make that like the rest of the area. I think that's actually what I'm gonna do. Just give them like one more row of vegetation, and then if I pack this thing out, man, I'm gonna need all that vegetation. I can add another classroom. I can add another community room. Yeah. And 13 on patrol. A lot of problems over here, man. So area is closed. So I can build something right there. I think that's what I wanted and connect the two buildings if I want. Let's put a dog down here right there. Yeah. Alright, as soon as I build the bakery, I'm gonna do the tell me the two probably. Bust that ass, bust that ass. Somebody bust that ass. Alright, I got the songs over there for you. I'll show you. I'll show you. Everybody jump. Fucking hard. I'm always saying I would change, but I ain't listening. Shame on you. Six o'clock in the morning. I wonder who makes it. Okay. See. Alright, there's no reason to. They all kill fucking people. Motherfuckers that can't be trusted. That's all it is. See? If you jackasses guys are fucking prison cell. Look, you pick the look. Like, nah. Okay. Because they can't get in there. Alright. Alright, Howard. Who died? So many people died. Is there a reason why you're not putting them there? I don't know. No one knows being Well, um, safety. I gotta separate the verticalities. I was bugging that motherfucker good. Motherfuckers violent. turn around and make that part of this. They're gonna make me do it. At least, my man. night, or good morning, should I say. Yeah, it's end of the day for you, huh? Thanks for checking it out. Cool, cool. Okay, okay. Yeah, I started a little earlier than usual. I would just be getting off of work, so thought I'd jump on and check it out. I have a funeral to go to in the morning, and then after that, I'll probably be on most of the day. So, what have you been playing lately? What in the Roblox? Man, I want to design some Roblox stuff pretty bad. Yeah, he said he had. You said you play, but you haven't been on in a while. Man, he just killed like his grandma. All right, man. Have a good one. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping in, keeping company for a second. Yeah, I think he killed his mom. Dude, right here. Trying to figure out what time she is though. Joe Young. Man, Joe. Lady come and visited you and you killed her in my prison. Cold. That's cold. I can't believe that. Dang, that's crazy. Oh, not enough. I can't believe that lady got killed like that in my visiting room.
get the more cookies over here or some shit. Maybe I should give them 2 hours anyway, because like it takes them so long to get back. Just why? So they can get up and hit that fucking road. Alright, so their free time, they're gonna bail the fuck out of there, which I would too, because that's work. Lock up, then, and then, so then. Alright, so at nighttime they get all this stuff done. Anybody who alright, so right now these guys, what's one grade people doing? Everybody in grade is keeping it. It's your free time. What would you be doing? You ain't cleaning? Hold on. Pause. I'm just curious. Sleeping. Bunch of people sleeping. 7 p.m. nap. Okay. Just curious what was happening. Alright, we need to get some crime videos going. Because it's always cool to watch some crime videos while you're doing, or at least listen to some crime videos. So I could have just made it straight, but I just tucked a pisser in there for the prisoner side. What you do is like you just make prisoners all come in on one side, you know what I mean? So they come in here and they just only have access to the door. I mean, they can always jump across the table. I just had that old lady die, you know? But I mean, for the most part, that's what you're trying to do. Man, what's up with this fucking deliveries, bro? All right. For the sake of y'all, just fucking up. We haven't already had this built. Taking too long. Being dumb. Pause. Pause. Everybody eat, lock up. You guys want to eat, lock up? What's the Benjamin saying? That's everybody's gonna pause. Everybody's on the second hour. 20 meals required. 3 meals ready. 3 meals being cooked. Okay, so good. 66 meals ready. 5 being cooked. Yeah. Okay, got to stay fat. So we'll let that one work. We'll let that one work. Ah, it's the middle one. It's the one in the middle of the day that you got motherfuckers running around all day. And you expect them to come back from way over there. Alright. Free time has to be travel time. My dude. Oh, hang on. Yes, we know about her. I've already seen her story. Perfect. I want to see some weird homes. Oh,
Right at your fingertips. Sheer opulence. Sheer opulence.
You're hardworking, reliable. I want to promote you to general manager.
I'm afraid I cannot accept. That was my dream when I got here.
hygiene.
But my goals have changed. I have changed. I'm going to start my own business. A strip club for women. Is this some kind of joke? Not at all. I mean, do you like looking at naked dudes?
I have something to tell you, Paul. Women get horny.
Welcome to
I bought this place. You need me.
We need a choreographer, and I do enjoy a challenge.
Cuffs and collars.
You are a genius.
This could be huge. This could be global.
Russia, China, the whole world.
Repeat after me. Things are going incredibly well.
Things are going incredibly well.
Yeah, that shit was. Oh. All right, now
5
what's going
million
on?
of us live in council houses, with a reputation for being uniform, drab, and unappealing. They often don't get a
Broke
good
as
rep,
shit.
but some people are refusing to be defined by their state-owned homes.
Because it's a council flat. What are you going to do? You're going to live here with 6 bull terriers and like watch Jeremy Kyle all day.
Bunch of people that need
What
showers.
they don't want to see is man living in council house paints the Renaissance. It's like trailer trash meets the Renaissance.
Behind closed doors, they go to extraordinary lengths to break the mold and make a mark on the place they live in.
the shading. I've got some latex rubber that makes some plastic cuts out of it.
She said you can paint any colour you like. What I said, like pink, brilliant pink.
Some British council tenants are transforming high-rise flats and concrete blocks
I can't
into
take
fantasy
anymore, man.
worlds, private retreats, and public displays.
Please tell me if you like my garden. Where else in the entire planet you have a beautiful collection?
Oh man, I just can't. Yeesh. My brother is right there. Let's get everything going. Well, you guys don't stop. Right there, like. Really? You're gonna dig out with your little dummy there all night. Jeez. Give me something like that.
Build your brand online with a beautiful logo. Just go to Wix Logo Maker. To start, type the business name and add the tagline. It's for a pet supply shop, so it's gotta be fun, playful, and fresh. Then, help Wix Logo Maker understand your style. Choose where you'll use it. Here we go. Wow, so many great options. Let's go with this one. Here is where you can customize the logo, like changing the icon and the font. You can also print the new logo on t-shirts, business cards, even mugs. It's gonna look perfect on your Wix site. Go to Wix.com Logo Maker and create your professional logo today.
First time ever, carbon fiber has been integrated
This
into
guy
lens
out of the
design
cell.
to deliver an ultra-compact and lightweight professional cine lens solution with stunning optical performance. CNCF is a smaller, lighter, and remarkably stealthy 8K-ready lens system. Expand your filmmaking potential with a collection of high-speed cine primes that cover the largest image sensors used today. CNCF is purpose-built for the rigors of motion picture use with X-coding technology developed specifically for digital sensors, 11-blade apertures, ultra-smooth focus rotation, tight color matching, and interchangeable lens mounts. Luminous lens markings allow for easy use even in the dark, with fast apertures as low as T1.5, push the limits of any lighting environment. Experience excellent selective focus capabilities without the fear of focus breathing.
They actually have variable look. If you shoot them at a 2.8, they look very sharp, contrasty lenses. If you start to open them to a 2, then
Man,
they start to
bro.
look softer, a little bit night.
Marco Polo has gone down in history as one of the most famous world travelers of all time. I mean, who else has a pool party game named after them? He was an explorer, a merchant, a soldier, an observer of new cultures, and a biographer. But was he really? Some modern scholars don't believe that Marco Polo wrote his famous travels or even spent 17 years in China, like he claimed. So, today, we're talking about some surprising things you might not know about Marco Polo. With hundreds of different versions of the book, and some that omit basic facts about life in
Haters.
China,
Marco
likely that
Polo
the
is the
version
original
he
guy
made
that
might
had like
get lost
worldwide
in
haters.
history. But what do we know about Marco Polo the man? But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and leave a comment to let us know what other famous explorers you would like to hear about. Okay, time to get this party started. Marco Polo! It's
Yeah.
believed that Marco Polo was born on either September 15th or 16th, 1254, in the Republic of Venice. Exact dates from 800 years in the past are a bit tricky to pin down, and, tragically, none of Marco's birthday cards survived the passage of time. Marco Polo's father, Niccolo, and his uncle Maffeo left Venice for Constantinople before he was born, and Marco's mother passed away at some point, leaving the boy to be raised by his extended family. Bad luck Marco, as he was probably known, didn't meet his father until 1269, when he was 15, after the brothers returned from their long trip. Talk about a bittersweet reunion. Marco definitely came from a family of travelers. His father and uncle were among the most successful traveling merchants in the Kingdom of Venice. Both brothers left Venice for Constantinople when they hit adulthood, where they lived with fellow Venetians and set up a trading post. In 1259 or 1260, they left Constantinople just before it was sacked, pretty good timing there, and moved their business to a city in the Crimea. But they soon found out the Mongols were running the joint. So in 1269 or 1270, they came back to Venice with a request from Kublai Khan himself. During their time hanging out with the Mongols, the brothers apparently made quite an impression on Kublai Khan. Kublai asked them to return to Europe, carrying letters requesting that Kublai be sent 100 intelligent men, acquainted with the 7 arts. They were also asked to bring back oil from the lamp burning at the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and had gifts to present to Rome. The requests definitely took the Venetians by surprise. Kublai controlled the largest empire in the world, which had been trampling everything in its path for over a century. But Western Europe had been spared the worst of the Mongol wrath, and knew little about the people. So the brothers' tales of Mongol wealth and power was exciting new information for Venetian Catholics. While the Polos were among the first Europeans to actually set foot in the Mongol Khanate, there had been other, less famous travelers to make the journey, like Giovanni da Pien del Carpine, also known as John of Plano Carpini. John was a Franciscan monk and papal legate who traveled to the court of Uqday Khan, starting in 1245, tasked with protesting the Mongol attack on Western Europe. After presenting the Khan with a protest letter, John was, in turn, given a letter to give to the Pope, demanding Europe's leaders present themselves for surrender. It was sort of like passing notes in class, except across an entire continent. After this very long and oddly peaceful back-and-forth relationship, John wrote a book of his travels and passed away in 1251, 20 years before Marco's journey. The Polos had intended to return to China as soon as they completed their missions on behalf of Kublai Khan, but fate intervened. Unfortunately, when the Polo brothers came back to Venice in 1269, Clement IV had died a year earlier. The Vatican was in the middle of a 3-year struggle to elect a new pope, one that dragged on so long the electors were put on rations of bread and water, and eventually put in a roofless room to encourage them to speed up on their selection process. The Polos waited for 2 years for the situation to be resolved.
How's this some fucking surprising shit? You're just like mentioning shit in his biography, bro. This isn't like surprising facts. It's just facts.
From there, they crossed the highlands of Central Asia, entered modern-day China, and finally made it to Chengdu, where Kublai Khan held court. The journey took 3 years through lands no European had ever seen.
What?
And because minivans with built-in DVD players had not yet been invented, young Marco got to see it all. Once they safely arrived in China, the Polo men gave Kublai the sacred oil and the letters from the Pope, completing history's longest Postmates delivery. Kublai was so pleased with the Polos that he actually gave them a full-time job, appointing them as administrative assistants of sorts, something he didn't trust his own Chinese subjects to do. So, for the next 17 years, the trio traveled around China carrying out a variety of tasks, though the exact details of what they did and where they did it are lost to history. All we know is that Kublai kept them booked and busy, but they were having a blast working for him. Marco, in particular, grew up to become a trusted envoy of the Khan, and was sent off to far-flung Mongol outposts in places like southeast and southwest China, possibly going as far as Burma. He might have even governed a city in southern China for several years, though this is only fake.
He might have governed a city in southern China, but people think that he
used to write his famed book. More on that in a bit. The success of the Polos' work in China came with its own problems. They did their job so well that Kublai refused to let them leave. But in 1292, Mongol princess was to be sent to Persia as a consort. Seeing their chance to escape, the Polos volunteered to serve as her escort. Kubla was nearly 80 by that point, and finally let them go. Either he'd become more charitable in his old age, or had simply gotten easier to trick. From southern China, the expedition reached Vietnam. After spending 5 months in Sumatra, waiting out severe storms, they moved on to Sri Lanka, traveled down the coast of India, and finally made it to Persia. Yeah, it was a long trip. Sort of like
A boost of energy and hydration to help get you going, and amino acids to help you recover after. Advanced energy and muscle.
your teacher made you finish every game before the trail you started. And like all of us did in that game, the Polo expedition suffered extreme losses. Of the 600 people on the mission, only 18, including the 3 Polos, survived the journey. Should have brought more road snacks, I guess. The mission accomplished, they set out for Venice, and were robbed of most of their riches as soon as they reached Turkey. Old bad luck Marco strikes again. Speaking of Marco's bad luck, after 24 years away, Marco, his father, and his uncle finally returned to Venice in 1295, where they had dramatic reunions with the rest of their family. See, the Polo men had been away for so long that everyone just assumed they had died years ago. Many of them didn't recognize them. Further complicating the reunion was the fact that the Polos had been away for so long that they had all but forgotten how to speak Italian and had to relearn the language to reconnect with their family. Sort of like a college friend who came back a week late from spring break and pretended he'd forgotten English. The Polo men soon learned that while they had been away, Venice had been involved in a long, simmering conflict with nearby Genoa. A few years after they returned from their journey, war finally broke out. Marco decided the best way to relearn how to be Italian was to take the patriotic soldier route, and joined up to fight the great rival of Venice, taking a catapult-armed ship out to battle. Unfortunately, he was taken captive and sent to prison in Genoa. We were not kidding about Marco's bad luck. While in prison, he struck up a friendship with a fellow prisoner named Rustichello, a writer of chivalric romances from Pisa. The encounter ended up changing his life. See, Marco told his decades of travel stories to Rustichello, who wrote them down for him in a combination French-Italian language. After a few years, Marco was set free and took the book with him. He originally called it Books of the Marvels of the World, but was published in Italian as Il Milione, which means the million. It reportedly earned the title because contemporary audiences believed it was full of a million lies. Ouch. So I guess it did not make Oprah's list. Oh, wait, maybe it did make the list. Today, it's known in English by the less incendiary title, The Travels of Marco Polo. The Travels of Marco Polo contains little of his own personality or personal memories, but more of his observations about the Mongols, the Chinese, the people of Southeast Asia, and Russia. All of these were lands that virtually none of Polo's readers had ever set eyes on.
Why would we
The
care about
combination
Marco
of Polo's
Polo
descriptions
himself?
of exotic places and people, and
Oh, I really
Rustichello's
love.
fantastical
I
descriptions
love
of the people and
potatoes.
events Polo
No,
saw
motherfucker,
were
we want to know what
entirely
he
in keeping
did.
with the popular style of the time. As such, the book was a massive success, which is crazy considering that each copy had to be made by hand. Back then, every book was essentially a zine.
What is this?
Given that the book was unofficially titled The Million Lies, people have always wondered how accurate Polo's book really was. The scrutiny has only increased over the last few decades. In 1995, the head of the Chinese section at the British Library wrote a book called Did Marco Polo Go to China? The book makes several arguments suggesting all or part of Polo's account was invented out of whole cloth. For instance, The Travels of Marco Polo contains nothing about common Chinese traditions like chopsticks and foot binding, and gets major details about military actions wrong. Furthermore, Polo himself was never mentioned in any Chinese record of the time. But others have argued that Polo might not be at fault for the inaccuracies. Much of what he recorded was second-hand information, which could have been exaggerated or embellished considerably by the time it reached his ears. They pointed out that other travelers had missed foundational details of Chinese life, and frequently used pseudonyms during their travels. So yeah, there might not be any record of a Marco Polo, but did you think to check for a Parco Molo? There's also the possibility that Polo himself may have put a little extra flair on some details. He was trying to sell a book. Whatever the case, Polo was adamant that everything he put down in his book was accurate to the best of his knowledge. In fact, on his deathbed, he's alleged to have whispered, "I did not tell half of what I saw." Poland's account opened the European mind to a vast world waiting to be explored and exploited. The book's description of Japan set the wheels in motion for Christopher Columbus to undertake his journey in 1492, searching for a quicker route east. Meanwhile, Polo's stories of the spices of the Far East encouraged Western merchants to seek out these areas for themselves, breaking up the trading monopoly held by Arab nations. The wealth of new geographic information recorded by Polo was widely used in the late 15th and the 16th centuries, giving invaluable details on shipping routes, native peoples, and cities. Columbus himself owned an annotated copy he took with him on the voyage that discovered the New World. He may have owned the audiobook version as well, which at the time would have just been a guy you pay to read the book out loud. Lastly, let's use this time to put a long-standing urban legend to bed. Marco Polo did not bring spaghetti back to Italy from China. One of the many editions of the Travels includes a reference to Polo eating a macaroni-type noodle in China. This isn't surprising, as China's history includes references to noodles going back to the 2nd century. However, thin flour noodles had been eaten in Sicily since at least 1154, with other writings mentioning pasta variations in other Italian cities after that. So, not only did Marco Polo not introduce pasta to Italy from his travels in China, but Italians had been passing the pasta since way before Marco was even born. Chalk that one up as one of the million lies, I guess. So what do you think? Was Marco Polo a liar?
I mean,
Or
did
was his
he
life
say
as
that?
crazy
I
as
mean,
he
it's
said?
not a lie
Tell
if
us
he
why
didn't
or
say
why
it,
not in the
motherfucker.
comments
It's
below.
just
And
a
while you're
myth.
at it, check out some of
If
these
he
other
didn't
videos
say it,
from
it's not a
our
lie.
weird history.
People be like, I don't like weird history, bro. You be fucking stretching shit. Like, first off, there was nothing that was surprising in there. You was just like, hey, maybe he didn't. Secondly, yeah, bro. It's not a lie. He never said it. He never said that that's what he did like that. That's not what he said. kidding. So close. See what else this chick was in. She had these motherfuckers. She had these chicks heated.
Allie, it's sad how loving her husband and marriage offends so many people. Why are you being so triggering? I think that just really speaks to the amount of women that aren't marrying their first choice if they ever get married, but they're marrying their second choice if they do. That's awful. That's disgusting. I wouldn't be happy either. I would hate me too. I would hate me too. And there's women out there, they can be sleeping alone tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to go on Saucecast, 4 p.m. EST. Call in show. If you want to agree with me, that's cool. If you disagree, let me know why. Tell me, sis, why are you mad?
Yeah, you got these bitches triggered, girlfriend. That's why.
Why are you being so triggering? I think that just really speaks to the amount of women that aren't marrying their first choice if they ever get married, but they're marrying their...
I've seen it very dramatically with many women. And I suppose the most single, most convincing evidence of that, I worked with high-end lawyers in Toronto.
Can a stray be domesticated? Yeah. Don't start identifying all fucking men as stray. Like, don't try to categorize me as a whole fuck category, because I just dumped in that, girlfriend. That's just dump in me.
Welcome back to the Real Femme Sapien YouTube channel where I give cultural commentary. You guys are welcome.
Or maybe he's talking about a chick.
Call in and chit chat if you would like. I am not trying to be on camera right now, so I have a little icon instead. I have this little cartoon, but I wanted to talk about, and can a stray be domesticated, and what it is to be a modern woman and have this walk in life, because a lot of the critique of conditional femininity, which I am not an entire advocate for, but I will explain why it can be necessary. You either are feminine or you're not, but everyone has their own subjective definition of feminine. For myself, I am obviously not that much of a feminine woman. I wish that I had been, but that is not something that I grew up with any exposure to. I wasn't taught how to be a lady. I went out of my way to try to research this thing in my mid-20s, and you can read it on me. You can see it on me. I served in the United States military. I was proficient at my job. I was a combat medic specialist. I was a 68 whiskey.
Yeah.
So femininity, in some aspects, is not natural for me. But again, that's my version of femininity, and I'm allowed to have my version of femininity. There is no
I can tell you as a military
definition
chick.
here, but at least I went out of my way as a woman to go and find out. If you like this content, make sure you give it a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and hit the notification bell. But I don't think there is necessarily enough grace with that, and I think that at least if a woman is trying, that's better than not trying at all to try to become a better woman. And so I get heat about the conditional femininity aspect, but a lot of modern women are out of touch with their femininity to begin with. For example, we have, young women who have been convinced that it makes sense to be a live-in roommate and have unprotected sex with a boyfriend, to cohabitate, and then, they get frustrated when eventually they are not married to their boyfriend. They don't like it. But that's what I mean by they're out of touch with their.
Marco Polo has gone down in history as one of the most famous world travelers of all time.
Allie, it's sad how loving her husband and marriage offends so many people. Why are you being so triggering?
I think that just really speaks to the amount of women that aren't marrying their first choice if they ever get married, but they're marrying their second choice if they do. That's awful. That's disgusting. I wouldn't be happy either. I would hate me too. I would hate me too. And there's women out there, they can be sleeping alone tonight.
Tomorrow,
we're going to go on Saucecast, 4 p.m. EST. Call in.
She said, "What did you do to you?" I can't. Annie, you pick some good stories. I'm gonna try. It's hard for me to listen to her voice there.
Afterward, he began to drink and abuse substances more than ever. As a result of this,
Yeah.
I'm Frederica. I'm 33 years old, and I've been using kick.
That's what I want. Explore what else. What's happening over here? We'll do that.
I want to get permitted. I'm on the lake. I'm sorry, I can't understand you. What's the address? I'm on the lake, but I don't know where. My husband had a stroke and he fell over. Are you out in a boat? Yeah. Is he awake? No. Okay. Water. He's in the water? He's gone. For hours.
At some point before this 911 call, a tragic accident occurred. Lori Eisenberg's husband Larry disappeared into the freezing water. However, as investigators searched tirelessly for the missing man, they were shocked by a dark secret that came bubbling up to the surface. Prior to this horrific ordeal, 68-year-old Larry and 66-year-old Lori lived their lives together as prominent members of the Cougar Gulch community of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Larry and Lori each had several children from previous relationships, and those close to the couple reported that they never argued and were always complimenting each other. This detail makes what happens next all the more heartbreaking. On the morning of February 13, 2018, Larry and Lori set off for a sunrise boat ride on Lake Coeur d'Alene. But before departing, Larry sent his daughter a photo of the sunrise. Larry also messaged one of his good friends that morning and mentioned not feeling well enough to fish. However, the couple still went ahead with their plans. Then, just a few hours later, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office received that frantic 911 call at 10:25 a.m.
Are you out in a boat? What?
Lori's voice sounds panicked. When someone is in fight or flight mode, respiration increases and mucous membranes dry up. This dryness includes the vocal cords, which can affect the sound of someone's voice. Then, Lori gave the operator more information about what had happened to her husband.
You're driving? No. Get up fast. No. Daddy. Suppose that something's wrong with the motor. So that he unzipped the cover thing and went to the front of the boat. He turned towards me. They say something about the electric motor, and he and he fell over.
The majority of the chilling body cam footage in this case has never been seen before. The footage has been analyzed by a qualified team, including a licensed attorney and former criminal prosecutor, and a former licensed professional counselor. Officers arrived at the closest shoreline just after 11 a.m. and sent a rescue fireboat to retrieve Lori and bring her back to shore for medical attention. Deputies pressed Lori for any information she held regarding Larry's last known location.
Hey, Lori. My name is Deputy Bauman. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. I'm just going to try to ask you some questions so we can kind of figure out where to go from here. Okay? Can you tell me, how'd you get the bloody nose?
I fell down.
You fell down.
So
Okay.
she fell against
I
the
was
door.
trying to grab him.
Okay. Can you tell me about how far you were when he fell in?
Closer to this side, I think.
Okay, closer to this side. Okay. Did you see any houses or big trees or landmarks?
In the water.
Okay. It's
No,
okay.
I didn't see. He said he didn't feel good and he was doing things weird, and then he went up to the motor, and the motor was broken. It was the other motor.
Okay.
And then I said, "Why are you doing that?" And he turned to look at me, and his face just looked.
Okay.
It looked awful, and then he just started to fall, and I tried to get the door open and get to him, and I grabbed him, and I fell.
Okay. Okay.
Lori stated that she didn't call 911 until 1.5 to 2 hours after Larry fell overboard, because she said she couldn't find a phone during that time. The distraught wife also claimed that Larry broke the ignition switch just before the incident, which meant that she had to manually get the motor running again. Then Lori said she zoomed around the area looking for Larry, but chose not to drive the boat back to shore out of fear that she'd lose track of the location. So instead, she repeatedly honked the boat's horn in hopes of finding help. It wasn't until she retrieved a blanket to stay warm that she finally found Larry's cell phone and called 911. However, she said the phone fell into the lake after making that call. During this interaction, the officer noted that Lori's emotions regarding the help of law enforcement appeared to be genuine, desperate, and appreciative. After leaving Lori with the medics again, the officer pulled aside another deputy and informed him that although this appeared to be a tragic accident, they still needed to investigate any possible foul play.
Cases like that.
Introducing the new Skill PowerCore 20 XP rear handle saw. With 2 batteries that combine to deliver 40 volts of power. That's why it can tear through 3x in a single pass and cut up to 600 2x4s on one charge for extreme power and extreme performance. So go ahead, take it to the extreme. Skill, tools to do the job, the technology to do it better.
I'm Al from Ohio. I'm a conservative. J.D. Vance, to me, is a California ass kisser. He's got no substance behind him other than money. J.D. Vance is a phony. He's looking for power now, and he feels like jumping on the Trump train will get him that. I will be voting for Jim Ryan this November. He understands what's important today to improve the lives of the Ohio citizens.
Cases like this, even if there's some suspicious, you always, real sensitive with these people when they're, because it could be totally legit what they said, and it could be something totally different.
The officer understands the importance of building rapport, as he would be more likely to get information from someone if they feel they can trust him. Officers also discuss the difficulty of finding Larry in the water based on the clothes he'd been wearing, and their belief that he was likely already dead.
Because especially after this long, but over 2 hours, we're in recovery anyways.
She's right there.
I think she knows at this point.
I think so too, but just in case.
Finally, medical personnel assisted Lori to an awaiting ambulance for further observation. Next, officers had the Eisenberg's boat towed to a nearby boat launch for evaluation. Upon boarding the vessel, detectives immediately noticed blood spatter in several areas, presumably from Lori's nosebleed. Despite Lori's claims about the ignition switch breaking just before Larry fell into the water, officers located the kill switch and lanyard on the floor. Investigators found this odd because the kill switch and lanyard must be attached to the ignition in order for the motor to run. Furthermore, the ignition key had clearly been bent, suggesting that there may have been some kind of struggle. Deputies also found various other keys and Lori's purse, which contained a near-empty naked juice bottle. The items were all seized as evidence, and the boat was then transported to a nearby parking bay for storage. The truck that Larry and Lori had used to tow the boat was also examined. While they didn't find anything particularly out of the ordinary, one officer noted Lori's misplaced cell phone in addition to an unknown spilled liquid in the cup holder and a bottle of allergy medication with the active ingredient diphenhydramine in the center console. While this type of over-the-counter antihistamine is commonly used to treat allergies, fevers, and cold, it's also known to cause drowsiness. Now, stick a pin in that little detail because it will be very important later. Unfortunately, Lori's lack of accurate knowledge regarding Larry's last known location resulted in a vast search area. Therefore, it was decided that the rescue diver should be dismissed from the scene, and a sonar team should be utilized instead. Search and rescue helicopters also flew back and forth over the expansive lake in hopes of spotting Larry, but to no avail. Later that same day, sonar rescue teams spent 3.5 hours on the frigid lake searching for Larry until it was too dark to see. However, at this point, the effort was being treated as a recovery mission rather than rescue, as surviving in such harsh conditions would have been nearly impossible. Meanwhile, an officer met with Lori at the hospital where she'd been treated for the nosebleed in an effort to establish a more defined search area by showing her a map of the lake.
What we're trying to gather is the best location that we can as far as where you guys were, where you think in this area, right?
Initially, Lori's left hand is relaxed and open on her leg. As the detective mentions her husband's name, she clasps her hands, which could be an adapter behavior to help herself feel better. However, it wouldn't be abnormal for someone in a situation like this to feel stress, especially if they genuinely couldn't remember the exact location that their spouse fell into the water. The deputy also asked Lori for more information regarding how Larry fell into the water and what exactly had happened with the boat's motor.
So let's fast forward up to the point where he starts having his medical issue. Kind of explain that part to me.
He had said something about, I'm sort of waking up and he said something about the resort.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said, there's the resort. And then he stood up and he sort of, matter of fact, I think it broke the key. He sort of leaned on the key. Sort of odd the way he did it.
When asked about the bent ignition key, Lori appeared confused, as though she was trying to come up with an explanation. Next, Lori explained how she initially attempted to search for her husband in the water, but she still didn't seem to have her story straight.
So I was driving around, and then I realized I was turning around because I do remember then I sort of stopped and said, stop. And thinking back on it now, I think I may have been turned around. I was trying to think about this. But it seems to me we were closer to I now know the east side where it's more trees and less houses, because there weren't a lot of houses, I don't think. That there were a lot of houses right there. But they were sort of far away, and I wasn't looking far away.
Sure.
I have no idea how long because I didn't have my phone with me, and his phone is usually in his pocket, so I had assumed his phone was gone. And then...
How long did it feel? I mean, obviously, a minute can feel like a lifetime in those situations, but...
It could have been a half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
When the detective asks how long it felt like, Lori rubs her hands on her legs and then clasps her hands. These are both adapter signs that indicate she's likely feeling stressed by this question.
So you didn't find anything?
So our sonar team is out there right now. Okay, so essentially what happens when we have a big search area like this, our sonar team has to find him first before the dive team. So I'm a member of our dive team. Okay, so I will go get Larry. But we can't search an area like that because of the depth. As divers, we can't go that deep for more than about 6 minutes at a time.
Lori is rubbing her hands together as she asks if they found anything, another sign of stress.
Okay, so they're in our impound lock, as well as your cell phone and the car keys, which were in the truck. Because this is a criminal investigation at this point, we have to keep those until we clear it up and say, okay, no foul play. That's our job to make sure that gets done correctly. Yes.
5 days later, on February 18th, detectives called Lori and asked her to accompany the sonar team on the lake, as their efforts to locate Larry had still been unsuccessful. While she agreed, Lori couldn't recall any specific landmarks and seemed to offer minimal help to the searchers. This lack of information struck investigators as odd, but even more strange was her behavior. Throughout the search, Lori would joke around and laugh before suddenly breaking down into tears for no reason. The officer also noticed that she would abruptly stop crying to continue conversations. But of course, everyone grieves differently, so Lori wasn't considered a suspect in Larry's disappearance. Emotions.
I choose who I work for to move my career forward.
Your life.
Your work.
Your choice.
Indeed Flex. Your app for temporary work. Download today.
Emotions are very complex. After someone loses a loved one, they may feel guilty for smiling or laughing because they believe that because of their loss, they shouldn't be happy. Grief often ebbs and flows, and there may be happy moments followed by very sad ones. However, later that day, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office received 2 separate calls concerning suspicious activity at Larry and Lori's residence, a remote cabin 20 minutes southwest of town, which they had once called Our Paradise. The callers, both neighbors of the Eisenbergs, said that Lori was acting out of character and appeared to have family members helping move all their belongings out of the house, which Lori told them she planned to sell immediately. Furthermore, the neighbors reported unusual sounds coming from the home at night that they had never heard before Larry's disappearance. While nothing ever came of these supposed strange noises, the reports certainly piqued the interest of investigators. Then, on February 21st, a shocking revelation was made that sent the case in a whole new direction. The North Idaho Housing Coalition, where Lori had proudly worked for years, announced that she would no longer be employed due to possible fraudulent activity. As it turns out, the coalition accountant noticed some irregularities and ordered an internal audit, citing the initial theft value to be around $500,000. This news came as a major shock to those who knew Lori because she had no prior criminal record, and according to law enforcement, seemed like the most normal person you could encounter. Sensing that something wasn't quite right, Larry's children requested to speak with investigators about their concerns.
So I don't know why they'd rearrange it to take the boat out in the winter. It's icy. I just tried to park the camper today. That's what I'm soaking wet. Mm-hmm. It's just a mess and a disaster. Lori's always cold. I don't understand why they'd be out on the lake in the first place. Mm-hmm. This isn't going to be efficient for doing that.
Then, Larry's son described Lori's strange behavior in the past few days since his father's disappearance.
It's the second or third sentence out of her mouth today when I saw her for the first time coming over to help was how we're going to start divvying everything up, and it's just, I'm gone. Maybe it's just my grief. I've never dealt with grief, but it literally just doesn't feel right.
It's important to trust your intuition and gut feelings. It's possible that Larry's son has picked up on some subtle body language cues from Lori that are sending alarm bells ringing in his own head. He's likely spent a decent amount of time with Lori prior to this incident, so he has a good idea of what her typical or baseline behavior is. He may recognize that she's acting different from her baseline, and he may suspect that her altered behavior isn't just a result of grief.
Well, and I can tell you what she told me to kind of make some of it make sense. And you tell me if it's far off, if you've heard something different. Essentially, she told me that they got out to the lake, they wanted to see the sunrise. He took a picture of the sunrise and sent it to his daughter. Was that you? And you received that?
Yeah.
And she said about 6:41 in the morning?
The officer tried to explain Lori's side of the story, but Larry's children still weren't buying it.
They often go boating, but I don't know what to do after it's so cold. Apparently they're sick. We didn't know they were sick.
It's just something insane.
Next, the detective explained how the sonar teams were working to find Larry.
As far as the search goes, they'll check the high probability area. And then if that yields no results after a while, because they'll make passes this way, then they make passes this way, then they do diagonal passes, because if you imagine the way a sonar is, it's like shining a flashlight, and they're looking for shadows that would reflect a person.
At the end of their conversation, the detective reaffirmed his theory that Lori had nothing to do with Larry's disappearance.
In my personal opinion, it's not serious enough to where I would think that some sort of homicide would occur from it. And again, that is a personal opinion. That is not a professional statement of the sheriff's office.
After Larry's family had left, the detective summarized their conversation with another officer.
I went and spoke with the wife yesterday, because after seeing the stuff in the boat, and they're like, yeah, and then speaking with her, it's an accident. And when you looked at the boat, it was where, I mean, with the blood, no fishing gear, the key was bent, almost looked like a struggle, and you're like, man, and then it's just too much to go, nah. But I just said, hey, explain it to me. She answered every question without me asking the question. She answered my questions.
Still, the next day, a search warrant was issued for the Eisenberg home relating to Lori's fraud accusations. The search of Larry and Lori's home revealed several disturbing pieces of evidence, including black latex gloves and paper towels with what appeared to be dried blood on them, a Ziploc bag containing an unknown white powder, and more suspected dried blood on a concrete floor outside the residence. The lead detective working the case interviewed Lori right away at her home and confronted her with their findings. She claimed the blood they found on the gloves and paper towels was her own, but insisted that she had no knowledge of the other presumed bloodstains. Forensic testing later revealed that the reddish marks on the concrete floor had actually been caused by a wood stain that had dripped while staining boards, but that wasn't enough to keep Lori off the hook. On February 27th, Lori was arrested without incident on 40 counts of forgery and 1 count of grand theft. Lori's bail was set at $75,000 and was posted the following day by one of her daughters. But a horrifying discovery was still right around the corner. On March 1st, 16 days after Larry vanished into the icy water, a man's body was discovered floating face down near the shoreline of Lake.
Yeah, I'm all late. I got way
It was
back.
being treated as a recovery mission rather than rescue, as surviving in such harsh conditions would have been nearly impossible. Meanwhile, an officer met with Lori at the hospital where she'd been treated for the nosebleed in an effort to establish a more defined search area by showing her a map of the lake.
What we're trying to gather is the best location that we can as far as where you guys were, where you think in this area, right?
Initially, Lori's left hand is relaxed and open on her leg. As the detective mentions her husband's name, she clasps her hands, which could be an adapter behavior to help herself feel better. However, it wouldn't be abnormal for someone in a situation like this to feel stress, especially if they genuinely couldn't remember the exact location that their spouse fell into the water.
Look at that negative number, bro.
In 2010, the first rare earth crisis escalated when a Chinese fishing trawler collided with a Japanese Coast Guard vessel, ultimately resulting in China temporarily cutting off Japan from the supply of these unique materials. The crisis saw rare earth prices increase tenfold. Rare earth elements are a collection of 17 elements that are a critical component of rare earth permanent magnets. These magnets are necessary for the production of efficient electric vehicles, offshore wind turbines.
The deputy also asked Lori for more information regarding how Larry fell into the water and what exactly had happened with the boat's motor.
So let's fast forward up to the point where he starts having his medical issue. Kind of explain that part to me.
He had said something about, I'm sort of waking up, and he said something about the resort.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said, there's the resort. And then he stood up, and he sort of, matter of fact, I think it broke the key. He sort of leaned on the key, sort of odd the way he did it.
When asked about the bent ignition key, Lori appeared confused, as though she was trying to come up with an explanation. Next, Lori explained how she initially attempted to search for her husband in the water, but she still didn't seem to have her story straight.
So I was driving around, and then I realized I was turning around because I do remember then I sort of stopped and said, stop. And thinking back on it now, I think I may have been turned around. I was trying to think about this. It seems to me we were closer to I now know the east side where it's more trees and less houses, because there weren't a lot of houses, I don't think. But there were a lot of houses right there. But they were sort of far away, and I wasn't looking far away.
Sure.
I have no idea how long, because I didn't have my phone with me, and his phone is usually in his pocket, so I had assumed his phone was gone. And then...
How long did it feel? I mean, obviously, a minute can feel like a lifetime in those situations, but...
It could have been a half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
When the detective asks how long it felt like, Lori rubs her hands on her legs and then clasps her hands. These are both adapter signs that indicate she's likely feeling stressed by this question.
So you didn't find anything?
So our sonar team is out there right now. Okay, so essentially what happens when we have a big search area like this, our sonar team has to find him first before the dive team. So I'm a member of our dive team. Okay, so I will go get Larry. But we can't search an area like that because of the depth. As divers, we can't go that deep for more than about 6 minutes at a time.
Lori is rubbing her hands together as she asks if they found anything, another sign of stress.
Okay, so they're in our impound lot, as well as your cell phone and the car keys, which were in the truck. Because this is a criminal investigation at this point, we have to keep those until we clear it up and say, okay, no foul play. That's our job to make sure that gets done correctly. Yes.
5 days later, on February 18th, detectives called Lori and asked her to accompany the sonar team on the lake, as their efforts to locate Larry had still been unsuccessful. While she agreed, Lori couldn't recall any specific landmarks and seemed to offer minimal help to the searchers. This lack of information struck investigators as odd, but even more strange was her behavior. Throughout the search, Lori would joke around and laugh before suddenly breaking down into tears for no reason. The officer also noticed that she would abruptly stop crying to continue conversations. But of course, everyone grieves differently, so Lori wasn't considered a suspect in Larry's disappearance. Emotions are very complex. After someone loses a loved one, they may feel guilty for smiling or laughing, because they believe that because of their loss, they shouldn't be happy. Grief often ebbs and flows, and there may be happy moments followed by very sad ones. However, later that day, the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office received 2 separate calls concerning suspicious activity at Larry and Lori's residence, a remote cabin 20 minutes southwest of town, which they had once called Our Paradise. The callers, both neighbors of the Eisenbergs, said that Lori was acting out of character and appeared to have family members helping move all their belongings out of the house, which Lori told them she planned to sell immediately. Furthermore, the neighbors reported unusual sounds coming from the home at night that they had never heard before Larry's disappearance. While nothing ever came of these supposed strange noises, the reports certainly piqued the interest of investigators. Then, on February 21st, a shocking revelation was made that sent the case in a whole new direction. The North Idaho Housing Coalition, where Lori had proudly worked for years, announced that she would no longer be employed due to possible fraudulent activity. As it turns out, the coalition accountant noticed some irregularities and ordered an internal audit, citing the initial theft value to be around $500,000. This news came as a major shock to those who knew Lori because she had no prior criminal record, and according to law enforcement, seemed like the most normal person you could encounter. Sensing that something wasn't quite right, Larry's children requested to speak with investigators about their concerns.
So I don't know why they rearranged it to take the boat out in the winter. It's icy. Like, just trying to park the camper today.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Ron, that's not.
It's just a mess and a disaster. Lori's always cold. I don't understand why they'd be out on the lake in the first place. This doesn't mean they'd be fishing or doing that.
Then, Larry's son described Lori's strange behavior in the past few days since his father's disappearance.
The second or third sentence out of her mouth today when I saw her for the first time coming over to help was how we're going to start divvying everything up. And it's just, come on. Maybe it's just another devil creek, but it just doesn't feel good.
It's important to trust your intuition and gut feelings. It's possible that Larry's son has picked up on some subtle body language cues from Lori that are sending alarm bells ringing in his own head. He's likely spent a decent amount of time with Lori prior to this incident, so he has a good idea of what her typical or basic